threshold concepts define us as a discipline. So they, I think in some respects they help us like stake our claim, because that's something that our field still struggles with. But I think that they help us understand what we're doing and why we do what we're doing.
So threshold concepts adds kind of a level of maybe expertise and content and flexibility opposed to how writing has been taught in middle and secondary education. And it also just the framework of threshold concepts and thinking about how learning works with threshold concepts is so different than maybe the way that I was initially taught how to teach writing and how students were going to kind of progress all together. And I particularly value as an instructor the emphasis in threshold concepts about affect and about dispositions and identity and how important those are to student learning and how they influence student learning.
I think key things that writing faculty should know are that students are moving towards threshold concepts even though they might not be crossing them in their classrooms.
If we are into a discipline that is now known as writing studies, that presumes that we have a certain element of expertise that the average person doesn't have. My analogy was, if a geologist picks up a rock, they will know something about that rock, and they'll know how to investigate that rock, how to analyze that rock, how to compare that rock to other rocks or whatever it is that geologists do, more than somebody like me who doesn't know much about rocks, except maybe that you try not to trip on them. But in writing studies, it's important for us to have people acquire that expertise through understanding threshold concepts. And that will be the greatest value, particularly the one that writing is situated. That's so important because students and many other people think that writing is writing is writing. It's the same. You can write, so you can write here, you can write there. And that isn't necessarily true. And my own particular interest in genre, if people don't understand that genre awareness is necessary in order for you to do what is necessary in a given literacy context, you're not going to be able to be successful. So that's where the threshold concept understanding, coupled with the threshold concept implementation, can be very useful.
I do believe that revision is a threshold concept. And in my field in writing, there's a great metaphor that Doug Downs has put in the book Naming What We Know, and that's one that I'm really familiar with. And it's this idea of revision being this, if you think of writing as driving with the headlights on, you can only write to where the headlights end, right, where as far as you can see. And then in order to go further with it, that first writing to where the headlights end allows you then to look further. And so I love that metaphor. And so I require all of my students to do revision, which is a little different. I think a lot of times students feel that making them rewrite is sort of a punishment. That's not at all the case. It really does get that much better when they rewrite it because they've learned so much. And, it's really a struggle for them. But again, I think that's why it's a threshold concept. You're going to struggle with this. But for the most part, they come back and they say, that really taught me something, and I can see how far I've grown, and I can see how far this work has progressed as a result of having to do this. And so that's how I know they get it.
I think threshold concepts to writing is really important because it helps us show that we're not a service discipline and we know things and we should teach those things to our students.
I think I would like us to take threshold concepts, take it further, think about more of them, and I know to some extent we're already doing that. And I think also we need to localize them. I'm very much WPA oriented in my approach to the field, so I think if I were going into a new WPA position, that would be something like a professional development workshop or something that we would be thinking about in that program is what are our threshold concepts, how do we translate these and make them work for us here locally.